I put it into pieces from the Torah. So the 8:3 is the foot of Mount Sinai, encampment by Mount Sinai in the covenant in the third month, in the third month, we don't know exactly when, 60 to 90, had gone out of the land of Egypt. On the same day, they came to the wilderness of Sinai. They had departed from Rephidim and had come to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain. So Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord has said we will do. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and he rose early in the morning, built an altar at the foot of the mountain, still in the ceremony of the covenant, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young men of the children of Israel who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen to the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people, and they said, all that the Lord has said we will do, and be obedient. And Moses took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, this is the blood of the covenant, like Jesus is going to say it in the New Testament, this is the cup of the new covenant with my blood, which the Lord has made with you according to all these words. The two tablets, the instructions for the tabernacle and the golden calf. After that, after the ratification of the covenant with the sacrifices and the blood and the celebration meal. So when they get done with the covenant and Moses spilled the blood, the elders, the 70 judges, went up the mountain with Moses and Aaron, and they ate. They made a big table on the mountain and they ate in front of God. They saw a theophany of God. They saw something, and we talked about it. They saw something under his feet. Then God after that said, come up to me on the mountain and be there, and I will give you tablets of stone and the law and commandments which I have written, that you may teach them. Now when the people saw that Moses delayed 40 days, during the 40 days sometimes, they gathered to Aaron, he's the other leader, and said to them, come, make us gods that shall go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, now it's the man, not God. We do not know what has become of him. And Aaron said to them, break off the golden earrings. Here, Aaron is actually making a big mistake. And Moses is going to have to intercede for Aaron. But he was afraid of them. So he took their gold and he fashioned it with an engraving tool, something to engrave, and made a molded calf, the two of them. Then they said, this is your God, O Israel, that brought you out of the land of Egypt. That's the golden calf. The third. So we said, they were trying to keep the presence of God with them, and God is going to give them another solution. I make a tabernacle, a place of my dwelling. The tabernacle narrative. This is something I want you to know about. What's the tabernacle narrative? It is the piece of the Torah. It's a lot of Torah. A piece of the Torah talks about the tabernacle. Where do we have it start and where it ends? It stands at the center of the Torah. I brought this from the Jewish Study Bible. And although it takes up almost a third, 1/3 of the Torah is a tabernacle narrative. So it's not something small. This is what God has done to establish his presence among us, among his people. He's going to live with them. It's very profound. God lives with people. This is something crazy to think about. And he said, takes a third of the Torah. It covers the time span of less than 1 year. Why do we say that? What's time 1 year? Their presence where? At the foot of Mount Sinai, right? This indicates its crucial importance. All the institutions that ultimately shaped Israel's nation and religious existence, the law, which is Leviticus and Deuteronomy, the priesthood, the forms of temple worship, the tribal foundation of its society, are said to have been ordained and established during this brief period in Israel's history. According to the story that emerged from the Torah as a whole, the tabernacle narrative is a stage in Israel's sojourn at Sinai, interwoven with the theophany and proclamation of the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, and the giving of the laws and the covenant ceremony. The giving of the two sets of tablets and the incident of the golden calf, this is in between. The tabernacle narrative is in between those. The Tabernacle Narrative is the part of the Torah that covers the time at the foot of Mount Sinai. The Tabernacle Narrative includes Exodus chapters 25 to 50, the whole book of Leviticus, and Numbers chapter 1 to 10. If I ask you what books, what chapters are included in Tabernacle Narratives, these are it. Chapters 25 to 50 of Exodus, everything in Leviticus, straightforward, and 1 to 10 of Numbers, the non-narrative part of Numbers. So what is the history of Tabernacle, since it is important? In the beginning, the Tabernacle was not given to Moses as description. What did Moses do? He took his own tent, took it outside the camp and pitched it somewhere else by itself. And he, according to God's instruction, would meet God there. Every time Moses entered, we're going to read this, read it together. Now Moses used to take a tent and pitch it outside the camp some distance away, calling it the tent of meeting. Anyone inquiring of the Lord would go to the tent of meeting outside the camp. And whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people rose and stood at the entrances to their tents. They knew God is coming to speak to Moses, so they would stand in reverence. They were very careful to do that. They stood in front of the tents and not moved until they see the cloud coming down on the tent and Moses going in to speak. And whenever Moses went out to the tent, the people stood at the entrances of their tents, watching Moses until he entered the tent. As Moses went into the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and stay at the entrance while the Lord spoke with Moses. So he would be standing in the tent inside, and God will be the cloud that's standing there, and Moses will speak to God through that cloud. While the Lord spoke with Moses, whenever the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, they all stood and worshipped, each at the entrance. They bowed down all the way to the ground when they saw that cloud coming down. The Lord would speak to Moses face to face, as one speaks to a friend. Then Moses would return to the camp, but his young aide, Joshua, son of Nun, did not leave the tent. So there would be someone always standing there, keeping guard. Then the next step, God gave detailed instructions on building a tabernacle. So the first one was his own tent. But then later God said, no, you cannot do that. Let us build a tent for me. I'm giving you instructions about it. This included the needed material to a free will giving. He said, these are the materials I'm going to give you. But God said something very important. Keep that in mind. I will inspire people to give you things. I will move them so that they give gifts to you that will be used for the tabernacle. The tabernacle design, he gave him the blueprint. He actually showed him projections, 3D projections on the mountain. Moses used to sit there and watch TV for 40 days, but the TV was like 3D. The colors, the measurements, even the craftsmen. He named 2 people. One of them will work with metals and wood, and the other will work with cloth and fabric, whom he inspired to do the work. God moved everybody to do this. The tabernacle is divided into 3 sections. The outer court, walled, has an entrance, no roof, it's just wall. And it contains the bronze altar. The first thing you come through the door from the wall, you will find the bronze altar. And I'm going to show you this here. The first one is this. The wall is here. This is the wall. And then the entrance here, there's an entrance. And then the bronze altar of burnt offering. What is the next thing? The laver. The laver is the basin where you have water. That's why it's in blue. The bronze altar in red because there's blood sacrifices on this one. Then you move to something called the holy place. It is enclosed, not just walled. It has a roof. It's a tent. This is where your tent is. The tent is here. This one. That big box here. And it has 2 sections. One is called the holy place. It is enclosed with another entrance. So you move through one door and then another door. It has 3 things. The table of showbread, the lampstand, and the incense, the altar of incense. The altar of incense looks like Mangale if you want to remember anything. That looks like an altar of incense. The table of the showbread is like this table, and the menorah is like a candelabra, like a candle stand, with 7 branches. Then you move into the next place, which is called the Holy of Holies, and it's completely veiled by a veil, and it's enclosed with a veil on its entrance, contains the Ark of the Covenant, that's it, and its mercy seat. What's the mercy seat? It's the cover of the Ark. Inside the Ark, later they collected stuff into it, the 2 tablets of stone, the pot of manna, the rod of Aaron. I want to add a little detail here. Everything in this holy place and the Holy of Holies is made of gold. Everything out here is made of bronze. This outer court is bronze. You move inside the holy place is gold, and inside is gold. Gold covering wood, of course, wood covered by gold. Now we talked about the tabernacle, then we go into the first census. This has all happened at the foot of Mount Sinai. And I said, this is how he made the census. He said, take a census of all the congregation of the children of Israel by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names. Every male individually from 20 years, I said fighting men, has to be fighting men, from 20 years old and above, all who are able to go to war in Israel. You and Aaron shall number them by their armies. The census of the firstborn had happened at the same time. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, now behold, I myself have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, and instead of every firstborn who opens the womb among the children of Israel, therefore the Levites shall be mine, because all the firstborn are mine. On the day that I struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified to myself all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast. They shall be mine. I am the Lord. Then the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, number the children of Levi by their fathers' houses, by their families. You shall number every male from a month old and above. And that change is happening here in Numbers 3. Take a Levite for every firstborn. This is what happened at the foot of Mount Sinai. They're going to start moving from Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea by the plains of Moab.